Welcome to Happy Medium, the middle ground where the arts and mental health meet. I'm your host, Malaika Hollist. This isn't just a podcast interview. It's a front row seat to the creative process. You won't just hear about the art, you'll see it. In each episode, we meet local artists from the Tampa Bay community and discuss how they found their art and the powerful connection between creativity and the mind. Join me as we uncover the stories behind the artists in our own backyard on Happy Medium.
My name is Tricia Sham, and I call myself an abstracted figurative artist because it's not totally abstract. There's still figures in it, nature, but it's pretty abstract, so it takes viewers a little while to get the whole story behind it, or not. It's up to interpretation. But how I got started was through craft making, I would say. I did a lot of sculptures when I was a kid, like just nailing things to cardboard and doing whatever. But then when I entered high school, there was actually a department for the arts, so I auditioned for that, and I got in. That was my junior year. So for 2 years, I did that, and afterwards, that's when I was like, okay, I can do this after high school, and I actually got my BA in studio art as well.
How would you describe yourself as an artist?
It has to do a lot with themes of empowerment and knowing that you can get through things. One of the most prominent ones I like to reference is I'm not afraid of storms from learning how to sail my ship. So that's a prime example of just going through life, going through those stormy waves and strikes and learning to sail a ship, and you're so focused on it.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't faze you as much anymore when you go through difficult situations in your life and you build up your sail, so to speak.
Yeah, you just kind of figure it out as you go.
Yep. You adjust. Yeah.
As an abstract figurative artist working with mixed media, what Tricia does is hard to define. But let's hear her definition and how she plays with all these elements.
So that means there's a lot of room for ambiguity. I love that area because interpretations, right? There are so many different areas that I can bounce off of with viewers, and it's a two-way street. And so I really like to gauge that. And the other thing is, it's usually the ending stages of a painting, but I have this whole texture cart. And so I'll just sift through that, and sometimes I'll just dump the whole thing out and see what really works with the painting. I like to play with harmony. It may not seem like it because it looks chaotic on the surface, but I love color balance and figuring out what areas need more texture and what areas just kind of need to be like some breathing room.
Could you walk us through kind of your process of creating a piece? Where do you start and how do you get to the end?
So I would say first, there's a lot of planning before I even touch the canvas. So typically now I'll do digital mock-ups, and then I'll transfer that to whatever surface I'm working on. And then it's color blocking. So I'll do a lot of fill-ins to really just get that color balance I'm looking for. And then texture building. So I'll really just lay that paint texture on. Most of the time it's not even with any paste or modeling paste, or so to speak. It's just pure paint. And that's really fun for me. I'll just guide it on there with the paintbrush and build that up. And then that's when I just let go of the reins. There's a lot of planning, a lot of analyzing it at first, but then I just let it go and just let the automaticity kind of take over.
Within your art, I know you get a lot of inspiration from nature. Can you explain how nature comes into a piece?
Really through pictures. And it used to come from me really looking for inspiration, but now I say, and it's really true, that I'm just open to it. So I'm not always actively looking for inspiration, but I'm really always open. And that's through just daily life, right? So I could be going in the yard, make a phone call or something, and I'll see these insects on the ground, and I'll really look at them on a microscopic level, and I'll see all kinds of things within those insects that we go through. You might not think that, but when you look at nature really closely, you'll see those similarities. And that's when I just stock up. So I have a whole photo album on my phone dedicated just for insects and nature.
That's cool.
So when I'm not, feeling inspired or stuck or something, I have that to go to.
So what's an example of some of those similarities that you're seeing? Because I can imagine that that's there, but it's hard for me to pinpoint it.
Yeah, so For example, I did see this, I think it was a caterpillar, technically, maybe a centipede, but there was it may be kind of gruesome, but there was all these ants. It had a wound, an open wound, and they were like gnawing at it. And I thought, this helpless, poor little thing, but I couldn't do anything. I just had to sit there and watch it. And then I referenced that in a colored pencil drawing, actually, where the figure was kind of hunched over, just like the posture of that caterpillar, where we can sometimes feel helpless in life as well. So that's where I took that one.
As you can see, Tricia's pieces are vastly colorful, and in our current trend of neutrals and simplicity, the complexity of her work is a fresh new look. During her growth of artistry, she found that she couldn't stay away from pushing the boundaries.
When I started doing realistic portraiture, that's kind of where I first started, I would say. There wasn't really any wiggle room. Like, when I would have conversations, actually the conversations wouldn't really begin that much, now that I'm thinking about it. Because I was like, okay, here's this, and I liked it and everything, but then I felt myself wanting to explore different things in university. Like, we were doing landscapes and still lives and those typical assignments. But I sort of was already kind of using that ambiguous mark making and in colorful, wavy brushstrokes. Actually, I just felt it. I don't know how to describe it, but I really felt that push to want to do something different. Because I feel like when I was doing those realistic portraits or landscapes, it was what was like my starting point, like the foundation. I think a lot of artists first start off that way. But then it was just my artistry wanted to take over at that point once I learned the basics of things.
I feel like I understand that. Like when I took a lot of art classes growing up and they have you draw something that it's just like, it's realistic and it's real. So you first just want to master being able to draw it. Like, oh, it's an eyeball, I can draw a realistic looking eyeball. But then I think once you kind of know how to do that, then you want to put your own kind of spin on it.
Yes, and it's needed. I think those foundations are needed, but then you kind of feel yourself naturally going into your own thing at that point.
How is art involved in improving your own mental health or kind of your own self-care? How do you use art to do that?
So I didn't realize it until recently, but I think it's pretty common for people to bury their feelings, because there's just so many things to go about throughout life. But my art is a huge way that I can not do that. I can journal, and then I can look back on those journal entries and do whole paintings based upon writing. So that's another art form in itself. But I think it's so important to have some sort of outlet, because not everything can be elaborated out loud. You can think a lot of things, but it gets built up. So painting and drawing is a huge part of self-care and mental health for me, for sure.
It helps to we can really overthink a certain thing that's said, so I feel like art's a good way to kind of take that and put it down and let it be.
And it can actually show itself. Like, you think you have some of these thoughts, and which you do, obviously, but then when it comes out physically onto a canvas, you realize even more about yourself, I think. It's actually very intriguing. I think that's a whole art thing in itself. You're realizing it's you that's doing it, but you're realizing your own thoughts through that.
Making sense of all the...
Yes, you're making sense of it. And then people make sense of themselves through your sense, in a way. So that's why I really emphasize that ambiguity, where it's a two-way street, where we can talk about it, where they can tell me what they see throughout their experiences that they've had throughout their life, and it's actually really enlightening. It really is. So my website is ttsham.com, and my Instagram and Facebook is Tricia Sham, TRICIASHAM.
If you made it to the end, thanks for listening. And if you didn't, better hurry up and finish up. Just kidding. Want to know what's next with these artists? Links and ats are in the show notes or on artsaccessflorida.org/happy-medium, so you can follow their journey. Thank you to our sponsor, Community Foundation Tampa Bay, building a vibrant, prosperous community through transformative vision, leadership, and philanthropy at cftampabay.org, and the Go Be Off Foundation, supporting human rights, organizations, and the Tampa, Florida arts community at gobiov-foundation.org. And last but not least, thank you to the Happy Medium team at Arts Access Florida and the Florida Department of State, Division of Arts and Culture for making this podcast possible. Copyright WUSF.